Welcome to Rauta, and this time it's a festival video, a preview to Midgardsblot festival happening in Norway, 17th to 20 in August 2022. Now, Midgardsblot is a festival which previously I had only known the name for, but really had no idea what kind of festival it was. Until at Inferno Festival 2022, I met this great person who introduced me to this whole festival, gave me a little bit of an idea, and basically invited Rauta to travel there. So I was like, okay, sounds interesting, you're inviting me to this festival, maybe I am supposed to take a look at this festival and see what's it all about. And it is a Viking festival meeting metal. I was going to say Viking metal festival, but that would have been a little bit misleading. So a Viking festival having a metal festival thing going on. Basically like two festivals in one thing. And I was like, okay, that sounds really, really interesting. And before I head to the Midgardsblot site and give you a little bit of an idea more what it's all about, I need to explain my own past with Viking stuff. Now, when I was a kid, I read those Valhalla, Viking stories, which were great comic books. I had a little bit of Edda reading, being those Norse myths and all, and I really, really loved, since I was a small kid, all those Viking stories. They were really fascinating me with, kind of a Greek god style of tragic things, the war between the giants and mankind and gods and all that stuff, the dwarves, the trolls, you had it all. That plus Vikings were, those raiding fierce warriors with the mighty dragon boats and all. So Vikings had a lot of things to give me. And later on, when I got introduced more and more, when Vikings started to become more of a thing, especially past few years, you have had Viking stories like Vikings, the TV series, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, great action game with lots of Viking things happening in the game. And Northern movie, Valhalla Rising, lots of things happening nowadays in popular culture, which I think have really boosted the whole Viking deal. For me, it's kind of a dream come true that all these things are happening. And now I'm getting invited as part of the Rauta thing here to this festival where there are Viking enactors, there are Viking village, Viking festival, Viking seminars, Viking museum, and a lot of interesting metal bands. What could really go wrong? So Midgardsblot had me introduced to this whole thing and got me very, very curious about what kind of festival this would be and how much fun I was supposed to have there. Now, this is an interesting thing because past couple of years, obviously due to COVID restrictions, there hasn't been really a lot of festivals. So Midgardsblot, among others, have been forced to not take place. And now they're back with 4 days of program. That's quite a lot of swallow, especially when Inferno Festival in Easter was, 4 days. Steelfest, another 4 days in May. But man, I was enjoying myself so much with 4 days of, metal, friends, having a little bit of beer and doing interviews, of course. Now, Midgardsblot might still be my highlight of the year, even more than Steelfest and Inferno, and for the reasons mentioned, it's not only metal bands. Maybe on band side it's a little bit less my cup of tea than those couple of festivals mentioned, but where it goes better is that it has this Viking thing going on. Like I said, Viking village, Viking seminars, Viking shows, and outdoors festival got me really like, yeah, now I'm really stoked about it. And this is happening 6-7 weeks from now. And yes, I'm going there with my photographer and I'm having some kind of film crew help there to do interviews. So it's going to be interesting. Now, if you have taken a look at the video there running on the background, you can pretty much see what's happening there. People of metal and people of folk and people of Viking thing happening. So a lot of interesting things are, put together in various ways. So yes, I'm really stoked about it. But what matters, I guess, most of you, not so much what I have, what kind of thing I have with Vikings or whatever, but the actual band lineup. And this is worth mentioning. We have bands like Batushka and Bognaga, Einherjer, Diarrhea, really nice band from Portugal. Helheim, Goldbrand, Primordial, Ragnarok, Urgel, one of my favorite bands, Rodenchrist. Those kind of bands which are Viking or folk / black metal bands. So a lot of interesting. There are pure black metal bands such as Urgel and Ragnarok, but there are of course these bands which are more into kind of pagan things, and I guess you can kind of more or less mention Einherjar and Primordial as such. And then there are bands which are not exactly pagan black metal. I guess Zealand Ardor would go into that box. Vomiter being a death metal band. Convent from Denmark being a doom death band. So an interesting lineup in those terms as well. But the way it gets even more kind of interesting, and not so much in metal terms, but roughly 1/3 ballpark are actually non-metal bands. We have there artists like Eivør, never saw them live, actually have only very, very little heard that music. We have folk act Heilung, which I've seen at Tuska, very interesting, having those horns and very mystic atmosphere. I guess Linda Faye Hell and Dave Farne are part of that. Murkur, definitely. And of course, Vardruna. And they are artists which maybe don't look like they belong here, but like I said, this is not purely a metal festival. So it's interesting lineup combining roughly 1/3 non-metal acts and roughly 2/3 of metal acts of more extreme kind. And even that is not purely black metal or purely pagan or purely Viking metal bands, but combination of those. So lots of variation. I guess the rather traditional heavy metal and power metal are the only styles are more or less missing, but some of those bands which I don't know might actually fit those slots too. So it's very, very possible and likely. I just don't know. But be that may, that's the thing here. And now in terms of the daily program, it gets interesting because the first day, Wednesday 17th, is actually about this blot ritual around 4 p.m. if I'm correct, which is basically like an introduction to the whole festival with Viking rituals. And it's kind of opening ceremony, as it here says, by Folket Bortafur Nordavinden. I don't know exactly what it means, but supposedly kind of Viking rituals where you paint yourself with animal blood, which is one of those Viking rituals you kind of wish for happier days, be it about, I don't know, your future, finding your future spouse, or who knows what. And a couple of bands doing stuff. And then this is Mimir Talks seminar. Mimir is this beheaded head, which was kind of like a advisor to Odin in those stories, a person of wisdom who was kept alive with herbs and spells and all that stuff in Viking stories. An important character in Viking stories because of, connection to Odin. And this is about those historical seminars, so kind of lectures, what Viking life was all about, Viking history and all that stuff. I don't know the details, but it's going to be interesting for people who are into the Viking stuff. And in case you're not, well, you can just spend your day drinking and networking, having fun with your friends and all that stuff. And the rest of the 3 days are more or less filled with bands. A lot of bands and more seminars happening throughout the days. Now, what I was told is very interesting also, that in this festival area, there are not only bands, but there's this Viking village with Viking enactors, So there's like this historical enacting happening, like as if you've ever been to those kind of historical festivals or events like medieval fests and or fairs, I guess they're called, where you go and you have medieval clothing and weapons and food and delicacies and all kind of various items for sale, and you have those enactors, like as if they were the real historical people talking about their daily life. So making this fair like more a trip to the history instead of just being an expo filled with things to, for sale. So this makes this whole event even more interesting. Not only the amount of bands and not only the historical environment, which is outdoor setting with Viking buildings and whatnot, but you also have these enactors and seminars, which then again make it more interesting. And then there's also a museum in this Bor town, which is roughly some 80 minutes away from Oslo Gardermoen airport, which is the main airport in Oslo. So how to get there? The basic information you're going to basically find here, but I'll recap very quickly. First of all, you can get a train from Oslo Centrum or Oslo Airport to the Borre town, or technically speaking, there's just a couple of places, Skoppum or Tønsberg or something like that here mentioned. And you can just ride the train for about 80 minutes, and it seems that they're leaving like once an hour. And you can get to the small city or town there, go to your hotel or what kind of accommodation you have, and then just easily go to the festival area. There's a shuttle, Midgardsblot shuttle bus traveling back and forth throughout the week, so you can just go to the hotel, take a shuttle, and go to the festival area. Once you're done, get another shuttle back to your hotel or whatever. There's 3 different hotels or guest houses which are available. I don't know how many rooms they have left. I am personally, with my photographer and friends, staying at Hotel Glubben, but there is also Tønsberg Vandreheim, I guess it's like wandering home, I don't know, and Wilhelm's house, and these are all with discount prices when you use the Midgardsblot code. You will find the exact code here. Some of them are better breakfast, some of them are hotel. Then there is also camping area in case you want to go more rural or save money. And then you can just bring your own tent and start spending your festival area events with drinking beers and making friends, right there. And that's a very good option if you don't want to have a hotel room or you can't afford one, or if in case that's not available anymore. But there are possibilities for different styles. And like I said, traveling to the actual Borre area is pretty easy with just, this local train. You will have all the necessary information like address here, the Borre, Norway city, which is some 80 minutes away. And all the information, be it about tickets, be it about accommodation or volunteer work, I don't know if that's available anymore, right here on the site. And everything is pretty clear. You have the festival area, camping, accreditation, accommodation, tickets, daily programs, seminars. It's all explained here. And basically, if you have some questions left, you can just let me know in the comment section, and I will either personally answer you with questions right away, and if I don't know, I will forward the questions to the actual people, taking care of the whole festival and all. So I hope to see you there. I hope to make a few interviews at Midgardsblot, and of course I try to have wonderful good time there at the actual event. So 4 days of Viking and metal madness with some beers and interesting Viking stuff. It's gonna be fun, I'm sure. So few weeks away, maybe I will see you there, and if you see me first, come and grab me by the sleeve and come say hello, and maybe we will have drinks or talks. Anyway, this is Rauta, this is Midgardsblot. Take a look at the site and don't hesitate. See you there. Bye bye.